But anyway, all right, so let's look at it.
They sell extra large battery pack, right?
Well, I don't want to do that. I just wanted to warn me. Anyway, all right, so here's a few news articles. This one I thought was pretty good. I think this is an old tweet from Leslie Carhart, but it's very clever. And what she says, she has a very explanation. Try to explain network segmentation. Imagine for a moment, segmentation is like having a big wedding, and you put all the proper people at their tables so they can have conversations without running all over and yelling across the room. You also prevent some fights between families that don't get along. Air gapping is like having two weddings for two families in different states. You aren't getting any fights, but you just paid for two weddings and a lot of travel. And a flat network is you go to Vegas and put 200 people in the casino chapel with booze and let hell break loose. I thought that was very good. Anyway, so this is a Black Hat talk from just a few days ago, and I didn't know any of this. Windows has something called Windows Protected Process Lite. And I don't even know what it is, but it hardens anti-malware and critical Windows services against tampering, even by administrators. So that's very interesting. It is some kind of privileged process that can't be interfered with, I guess, guarded by the Windows Code Integrity Subsystem, which I also never heard of. So I ought to learn this stuff. Maybe if I'm doing the malware analysis class next semester, maybe we can get into this, because not only is it interesting and new, it also doesn't work. There are bypasses and ways to break through it. It has a history of bypasses. PPL dump will break into it. So whatever this PPL thing is, it's important to Windows and it doesn't work. So that sounds like a good thing to learn more about. Anyway, what's that? Yeah, well, but that's, anyway, this one sounds like fun. It's a new Brave feature, and it does sound very clever. I use Brave all the time because it blocks YouTube ads, but it also claims to have all sorts of privacy features. And they've added a new privacy feature that sounds pretty clever. You can see I've got about 20 tabs open here, and most people have like 100 tabs open. And the point is, if you open any tab and connect to any website, it will store a bunch of cookies on your machine, and those are usually have a lifetime of years. So every future time you go to that website, it'll send all these cookies. And in Brave, you can define private tabs soon. I don't think it's out yet. And these are forgetful tabs, so as soon as you close the tab, it will delete all the cookies. So it will no longer remember who you are for tracking. You'll no longer be logged in if you were. And they say you can, now there's a few things you want to be logged in all the time, like your social network or something, but most of them, you really don't want to retain all your cookies, and you can set it to just automatically throw away those cookies when you close the tab, which is probably a very good thing. So that sounds like a good thing that once you get used to it would be pretty easy to tolerate and pretty effective. So a lot of people, I've heard this, like 1/3 of married couples now met online. This is where people go. There's all these dating sites. And by the way, this is Elon Musk's new idea. He wants to make Twitter Tinder. Twitter dating is a new way to make money. So anyway, hello DJ. Anyway, so now they have people are worried about AI. There's going to be all kinds of fake AI romance bots. There's already an influencer that has a fake AI romance bot. She can pretend to be your girlfriend. And I'm sure all the dating sites are already full of fake accounts. Like they've sued them because there are in fact no women on there. There's just a bunch of paid male employees pretending to be women to make you think there are women. And so you could just put AI generated women on there to make people think there's women. But anyway, now they have an AI relationship coach, MRI, which will advise you how to have better romance and relationships. And this is a thing I've been hearing a lot about. A lot of people are using AI as therapists, like ChatGPT. You can't afford a real therapist, so you go online and ask it questions like, why do I feel miserable? What do I do about all my drug addictions? Or why am I fighting with my wife so much or something? And people argue about it, but now they're making one specifically for this, specific AI just to give you like relationship counseling. So various people have opinions. I don't know. I'll see if it works. One opinion, which I think is the best about this, is you can't beat the price. And a lot of people can't afford a real therapist. So it might be better than nothing. On the other hand, I'm sure there will be all sorts of horror stories where it tells you just go kill yourself or something. Because, I mean, it's an AI. It doesn't even know what it's saying. So I'm sure. Anyway, there's an authentication bypass in libSSH, so that sounds pretty harsh. We should be using updated versions of that. I'm not quite sure which software uses this library, but anyway, and this I thought was very interesting. It caught my attention. My mother died of pancreatic cancer. A lot of people do. It's one of the most deadly cancers. let's say survival rate is like 5%, and there's usually no treatment at all. Usually when they detect it, they just say, well, just go into ameliorative care because you're just going to die. Just give them a lot of morphine. There's no point even treating you at all because the treatment won't work at all. And now they got a treatment that appears to work. This is brand new. And it's just what I heard about, although I didn't realize it was so nasty. What they do, every cancer is different. This is why it's so hard to treat. For what these guys, they said that the new COVID vaccines would lead to cancer vaccines, and that's what this is. But what I didn't know is it has to be individually developed for each patient, which is kind of nuts. And they say it'll cost like $100,000. But these are like research versions. And what they did was they took a small number of patients, like 20 or 30, and they would take some cancer cells out with a biopsy. Then they would analyze the cancer cells, and they would choose proteins on the cancer cells to target. It's the same thing they did with COVID-19. You can design a vaccine to create some of the cells on the surface of the cancer, just so those proteins will float around in your blood, and then your antibodies will react to them. And they didn't target just one protein. They chose like 20 proteins on the surface of the cancer cell to identify it, and then made a reverse RNA vaccine that would stimulate your body to create a bunch of free-floating stuff there, which your body would then attack, and it caused like half of them to go into remission. So this is what they said. If you could only get your body's own immune system to attack the cancer cells, that would be the best answer, because then it won't spread, because then your body will find it everywhere. And trying to remove it with surgery or radiation or something is ineffective if it's spreading around through your body, because you can only find the big ones, and all the little ones keep coming back. So anyway, it sounds awesome, and hopefully it will get easier and cheaper with more practice. But anyway, it's a huge step forward at treating this extremely deadly cancer, which they couldn't do anything about. And it's not perfect either. It helped like half of them, and the other half, not the other half, but still, helping half is a big step up from helping like 5%. So anyway.
How are they going to get approved from the FDA?
Oh, well, for research, it's very easy to get approval. Especially if you do research against a really deadly disease like this, it's easy to get approval because they're all going to die anyway.
For research, you can do anything, but
Yeah.
if you want to, put it out as a
Well,
then
no.
you have to get approval, right?
That's right. To get it, that's why it's like 5 years or 10 years from this point before it becomes an official treatment.
How are they going to get approval? Right now the drugs, they have to go to trial to make sure it works.
Well, yeah, but
Like
yeah.
individually, you cannot tell.
Well, no. But the point is, this is a therapy. Doctors can prescribe things, even if they're off-label, even if they're experimental. And but of course, this kind of thing, it will have to go through a regulatory process. But I think the regulatory process is pretty easy when you're treating something so deadly, because it doesn't really matter about side effects or anything. Nothing matters really when you've got a 95% chance of dying within a few months. Almost anything would be a step up.
This kind of thing probably will only work in experimental things.
Well, yes, that's a really big, important thing. When they have an experiment like this, very few of these actually turn into real treatments. Very often, when they examine it in more detail, it either doesn't really work or it has some horrible disadvantage or something. I mean, you're right. There's a problem. Like my sister said, they can cure anything in mice. There's always a cure for everything in mice, but the chance of that really turning into something a human can use is pretty small. Usually, something goes wrong. The only ones you can really use are ones where they find a way to produce it in quantity. They do a huge test and it really helps a lot of people. It doesn't have some awful side effect and all that jazz. And so, yeah, that's why if you look at these things, you think, oh, gee, all my diseases are going to go away. And not really. You got to wait like 5 years after this to find out if it actually becomes a therapy. Like I have a friend with Parkinson's, and there's a bunch of research about this glove. They have a glove that vibrates your fingers, and this apparently greatly helps some Parkinson's people. I said, oh, that's bullshit. That can't be right. And I looked into real research from reputable places. There are trials like this where it appears to work. And I said, but still, it'll probably be 5 or 10 years before that's a real therapy, if ever. Anyway, all right, and so people are mad about that, but that's kind of boring. This one I thought was pretty amazing. I didn't know you could do this. Apparently, people have known this for a while. This is a burial chamber underneath the city of Naples in a densely industrialized district where there's real buildings and they can't dig. You can do basically x-rays of things that are 10 or 20 feet underground without, all you do is use naturally occurring cosmic rays. I was not aware of this. Cosmic rays contain muons, which are basically a heavy kind of electron, and they have enormous energy, so they punch right through everything. So all you have to do is set up a detector, and there are naturally occurring x-rays everywhere. created by these muons decaying as they hit things. And so you can pick up those naturally occurring rays and basically get an X-ray of things underground. And a guy tried to find like a hidden thing in the Great Pyramid here, and he was able to X-ray the Great Pyramid with this technique years ago, but he didn't find any hidden chambers. But he was able to get the internal structure of it, and here they got the internal structure of this burial thing, which they can't dig to. It's under a whole bunch of buildings. But I didn't know this was possible. You know, I don't know how long they have to gather the stuff. They show that the equipment is just like a few suitcases full of stuff. So I'm wondering if you could use this for other purposes, like, for example, hostage situations, where you have gunmen and hostages in a building. Anyway, I know they're doing it with Wi-Fi. You can get like a live picture at low resolution of who's inside a building with normal household Wi-Fi. You can pick up the Wi-Fi and you get sort of a blurry picture where you can tell like where people are, and you can tell whether they're carrying a metal thing like a gun. So that's already extremely valuable because enough of the Wi-Fi punches through. Now, Wi-Fi has a wavelength of a few centimeters, so it's not like you couldn't recognize a face, but you can tell if somebody's standing or sitting and how many people are in the room and stuff like that. Anyway, that's pretty interesting. I didn't know it was possible. Yeah.
Homicide victims that have been buried in the backyards and stuff.
Yes, you could do that. Yeah, you could find buried by victims. Yeah, all kinds of things. You could probably find buried caches of gold, buried by pirates and stuff. You could probably, but I guess right now, you know, it's pretty expensive and stuff. But anyway, they had a picture of the gear. I think this is the picture of the gear. Yeah, you make these emulsion plates, which are, you know, the old-fashioned photograph things full of some kind of chemical and thick, and they're just picking up these things, and then I guess you just wait a long time. I'm not quite sure how long for enough of these X-rays to come by, and then you get a picture. So it sounds pretty awesome. Nuclear emulsion, they call it. Anyway, that's enough of that.